All right, we want to welcome everyone to the One Day or Day One podcast. I am your host, Jordan Barker. Today we're joined by our special guest, Judd Burden, who is the president and founder of Asphalt Kingdom. This is kind of exciting. This is our maiden voyage. This is episode 1 of the podcast. So thank you, Judd, for helping us kick this off. And then happy to have you here. And thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jordan. I appreciate it, man. Exciting to always be the number one that kicks off that domino onto the next one. So I know that there'll be all kinds of fantastic podcast episodes that are ahead as well. But for now, let's carve into this thing, man. Let's have fun and change some lives.
Sounds like a plan. Let's do it. Well, tell us a little bit about Asphalt Kingdom. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you guys do and how you guys are changing the world.
Absolutely. So a couple things. One is I'm just an ordinary guy that was born and raised in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and literally ended up in a spot where I had $8 in my pocket, had moved out of the house because I figured I could tackle the world at the young age of 17. And as I was standing there with $8, I had to figure out what the next steps were. Long and the short is that I actually ended up going to a local hardware store called Canadian Tire and buying a 5-gallon pail of driveway sealer and went door to door, knocking on doors, literally selling driveway seal coating services. Grew that business over the course of 3 years. We ended up with 26 employees. We had multiple trucks, hot boxes on the back. We started servicing commercial contracts and ended up selling the company when I was 22 years old and moved to Anguilla in the Caribbean from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Didn't know exactly what I was going to do down there. Became a professional kite surfing beach bum. I was awesome at it for a period of time, but I got bored. And I'm like, all right, well, what's the next chapter? And so I started learning about this wonderful thing called the internet. And I took a course that was done by Dr. Ken Evoy called Make Your Site Sell. And it literally was a book about teaching you how to build an online business. And well, just like I'll tell everyone on here straight up, I'm not an academic. I'm like super extroverted, super ADHD. And for me to follow a course that's a 560-page guide was not easy. But I'm like, well, if I truly want to change my life, it's going to take some massive action to be able to yield the reaction. Well, I went through the course and then I'm like, okay, well, where do I go and actually build a website? And so I approached the owner, Ken Evoy, and started developing a product called Site Build It that actually is a solution that allows you to build, manage, and market your own online business. And I built this wild website based upon a body of knowledge that I had, which is the asphalt maintenance industry. Registered asphaltkingdom.com. That was 21 and a half years ago. And started down the path of literally just building an informational site that started to attract traffic. Once I started attracting the traffic, I was getting approached by people who were visiting the site about solutions to their pain points and challenges. And the site's all about asphalt maintenance and driveway crack repair, parking lot crack repair. And then I started building dropship relationships in the United States and Canada. And so right from the beach down in Anguilla, I'm building out this online real estate and connecting the dots between people looking to solve their problems, the traffic and the leads coming in through Asphalt Kingdom, to then having these companies that sucked at marketing and sales. No offense to all the vendors out there, but you guys are in your riverbank. You guys are manufacturers and internet marketing might not be your strength. And that was mine. So I brought strength to that relationship and we started drop shipping. Fast forward 21 years, I'm speaking to you from one of our properties in Central America in Panama. We own a hotel now in Anguilla. We own real estate there. We own a multiple 8-figure company now. And the dreams that I dreamt as a kid from the time I was 6 years old of being a free man with a beautiful family and financially secure and free to do anything that we really want to do in our life has come true, but it's taken some massive dedication, massive discipline and determination, and of course, a magnificent team that we've been able to build within our organization. So there's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. Incredible story. Yeah. Congratulations on all the success that you've had. And obviously you touched on a couple things there, which is, that dedication and a lot of focus. And I think that's the dream too, that, as our listeners, they love hearing those inspirational stories, because I think that's what they want. They want that freedom and they want that flexibility, and they want to be able to live that dream and create their lifestyle the way that they want to do so. So that's awesome. I love hearing those types of stories. I know you mentioned a lot about, you touched on this a little bit in your comment just now about being able to help other business owners scale and grow their businesses or even start their businesses. How have you been able to do that? I know on your LinkedIn profile, you talk about the fact that you've helped over 10,000 small businesses. Maybe touch on that a little bit. Like how have you been able to do that? How did you get started doing that? Maybe just touch on that.
So it's pretty incredible when you become a master of your craft. And when I say master of your craft, I'm not saying to just go out and read a book. I'm saying when you become a master of your craft, where you become absolutely obsessed with becoming the best at what it is that you're doing, whether you're an attorney, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a mentor, a coach, whether you're in the financing business, the leasing business, whatever it is that you're, sales, customer service, if you're going to dedicate your energy and life to something that you've literally committed to, you can't do it halfway. You've got to, you can, but looking at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day, it's really hard to look deep in your pupils and say you did it the best that you possibly could do it, because you didn't. And what I love to do is look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, I've given this my best shot. All I can do is all I can do. And so helping people start businesses came once I actually started to feel as though I was mastering the craft of asphalt maintenance and repair in the field for commercial and residential clients. Once I learned how to build an account-based selling model that had multiple properties attached to the accounts, once I understood the pipelines and the conversion processes and how to actually set revenue roadmaps up for people to be able to help them understand the yellow brick road they needed to follow, to not just hit their revenue goals, but to hit the profit, which is the oxygen for their business. Because ultimately, if I can help people achieve a higher level of enterprise value with their organization that one day they could sell, then we're building something that's a machine and not a hand crank business. And so helping small business, somebody who has a dream to build something, is truly our passion at Asphalt Kingdom. We unofficially hold the world record for starting the most businesses in the history of all mankind, on all of the history of planet Earth, of starting businesses in the pavement maintenance and management industry. We have more success stories than you can find out there on YouTube. We've got raving fans and tribal team members within our organization. The culture of our organization thrives. So helping someone start a business is just the very seed that is planted, but the actual acronym of CARE, C-A-R-E, which is create a remarkable experience for that individual and give them the roadmap that they need to create the freedom like I've been able to create in my life in 45 years of my life, is where the magic is, And so, yeah, Jordan, that's helping people start businesses. I really don't care if it's asphalt maintenance or repair or landscaping, chimney sweeping, roofing. I don't care what it is. It could be opening a nail salon. If you actually surround yourself with people who have been there and done that genuinely care about your future with you.
Yeah, makes sense. I love that. Yeah, I love that. Along those same lines, as a small business owner, a lot of times they have to wear so many hats. And I'm sure you found yourself in the same position where you're the CEO, you're also the sales guy, you're the marketing guy, you're the payroll and accounting guy. So what advice, or how did you think about prioritizing all of those things that are on your to-do list? And you might not be an expert out of the gate, and it might not be your natural inclination to know how to run profit and loss statement, for example. So what advice do you have to entrepreneurs that are out there that are either fighting the good fight or that are thinking of doing this? What should they, how did you think about that, and how did you do that in your own business?
So it's one of the number one things that hold people back from actually just getting started is that they let everything in front of them be the reason or excuse why they cannot get started. This, for a lot of people listening to this podcast right now, episode number 1, if you're in a spot where you're considering to build the future that you desire right now, there's one thing that will hold you back from actually achieving that as quickly, and it's waiting for a longer period of time to make the decision to take that first step. Here's an example, right? Somebody that actually is considering starting an asphalt maintenance business on asphaltkingdom.com. And we have business packages on there, the resources, the tools, the video guides, the how-to, the vaults with all the templates, like literally it's like a free franchise all in one package. And let's say it's 20 grand to get started in the asphalt maintenance industry, hypothetically. Let's just say that somebody goes through an application to get financing or to lease their equipment, let's just say hypothetically, and they see that monthly payment as the true roadblocker as to why they wouldn't move forward, because they're thinking in their heads interest or payments and and they let that create that mental block for them, rather than actually saying, I have the opportunity to be able to do this the right way out of the gate. And when I look at this, rather than a cost or an expense, but instead an investment into achieving my dreams. Like, if you really want to achieve something in your life, you have to be willing to put in the time and invest into that opportunity, whether it's creating self-knowledge or education or investing money, getting the financing you need, whatever it is. You've got to take that first step, and you've got to do it the best that you can do right out of the gate. Otherwise, just straight up, again, you're going to look in the mirror when you're brushing the teeth at the end of the day and say, I wish I would have done that when you're 75 years old and that you're scrubbing the leftover teeth that you have in your mouth. I mean, are we going to do this thing now in our life, or are we going to wait till we're an old fart and wish that we did all kinds of the important things to achieve the life that we desire? It's time right now. Let's grow.
I love that. Yeah, I think so. How do you get them? So if I'm listening right now, and maybe I've already taken that first step. Like, I've got an existing business and I want to take my business to the next level. So maybe I've already started, but I think where a lot of our customers that we hear from, where they kind of get stuck, is they're a solopreneur, they're a one-man shop, but they want to expand their business. How do you get them from point A to point B? And there's no blueprint for any of this, right? So what resources did you leverage, or was it just figuring it out as you went?
I'll tell you exactly what it was. Once I started owner operator and running the business, and I started to, I had a bookkeeper that helped me. The bookkeeper was at that point $350 a month or something, $300 a month. I mean, that was like laying one box of crack sealer that I could lay in approximately 7 minutes. And I'm like, okay, well, now I've got a bookkeeper. I'm going to trade that box of crack sealer that I'm doing on the parking lot to generate the money to hire a bookkeeper that's a hell of a lot smarter than me to be able to help me with my bookkeeping needs. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, now I can speak to an accountant and get them to coach me on what a P&L is and a balance sheet and cash flow. And like, I can actually learn some of these things, but I don't really want to learn them so that I can do them. I want to hire an accountant to be able to do that stuff. I don't want to be filing my taxes. I'm not good at that. And then it's like, okay, well, now I handle the marketing, I handle the sales, I handle the customer service. And I'm sitting there going, well, I just cannot scale or multiply this opportunity if I'm the one stuck in the hamster wheel constantly. And I don't need to get rich off of this right now, but do I believe in the dream down the line to build the enterprise value that's needed? And just to be clear, nobody's going to want to buy my business that I just run all on my own by literally getting a fire hose shoved down my throat every single day from all different angles. People want to buy a machine type business that has the systems and processes that have been embedded and built into the business that then have the right people that are actually plugged into those processes and systems that have been developed. And so for people who are already in the business right now, my main thing is, have someone who is a badass business coach you on the processes and systems that you need to start to structure and implement and document so that you can then bring your people into those.
Makes sense. I love that. How do you think about your own business, and maybe even what advice would you have, especially those? I know that you do roundtables and you do a lot in your community to, help these business owners progress and kind of navigate that entrepreneurship path. There's a lot of uncertainty right now in the market. I think we're finally starting to get some relief. Interest rates are starting to come down a little bit, but there's still some uncertainty out there in terms of what's going to go on with the economy. You have an election cycle right now that we're in the midst of. And so I think there's a healthy level of people that are just trying to figure out, should I start a business now? Is now the right time to start a business? Or B, if I am an entrepreneur and I already have an existing business, is now the time to really kick things into high gear and really invest in my business and try to grow this thing? How are you thinking about that for Asphalt Kingdom? And then, I guess the second question to that would be, what advice or counsel would you give to people who find themselves in that position?
It's a fantastic question. 2 questions. Great stuff. So first off, I'll just say this. Business has been really, really easy for many years as it relates to generating leads for a very low cost. And inbound sales have been something that people say, hey, listen, I want to build an inbound sales machine. I want to be able to have HubSpot do this thing for me. I want Salesforce to just do all this for me magically. And I'll tell you, you go to Google nowadays, and let me tell you, the first page is literally filled with sponsored ads now. Their organic listings are no longer filled on that first page of Google. They've got AI results. They've got all kinds of stuff. And so from an inbound perspective, the inbound business is actually dying. It's becoming more competitive. It's becoming more costly. And so for somebody that's in business right now, I would say take your mindset away from inbound, from an investment perspective, and start building your appointment setting teams, your outbound teams that are doing the setting, that are actually doing outbound sales for your organization. And make sure you have the right scripts in place, not just on connected calls, but voicemails. Again, processes and systems. When you build a cadence for your outbound sales program and you know the exact playbook that needs to be followed, you can then tie some automation into it and leverage AI and those kind of things. But for the most part, right now, you need to make sure you're focusing on outbound, whether you're starting a business or whether you're in the business, is build an outbound program. But what I will say is this, for those of you that are considering starting a business right now, what are you going to do? You're going to wait around till all this stuff goes? I don't know what's down the road here in 18 months, right? There's an election. Yeah, great. There's an election. I get it. It's tough. Whatever side you're on, you're dealing with I'm sure you're dealing with a lot of fear. And that fear on your side of uncertainty is either going to put you into a spot where you have negative thoughts and you're stuck in this paralysis state where you're curled up in a fetal position and you're not going to achieve your dreams. Well, I tell you that the majority of the population are actually in that spot. They're glued to their phones, scanning endlessly and having these emotional tolls on them that's putting them in this spot of a deer in headlights. And so what does that mean for you if you're starting a business or growing an existing business? It means that you have market share to grab right now if you change your mindset from being fear-struck to actually going out and hunting your future endlessly and relentlessly. Now is the time to start more than ever. We're going harder than we ever have right now on outbound. Why? Because everybody else is going silent. Let's go. Opportunity is here now. And then for those of you, sorry, the second question, Jordan, remind me, I apologize.
I think, how are you thinking about it? You talked about your business, and then just kind of what advice do you have, for those that might find themselves in a similar situation? And I think you might have answered it, but, now the time to really invest and grow and scale, or, is it best to kind of wait and see what happens?
I know that there's a marbled ribeye that's over at the gourmet meats place over here. If I'm hungry, I'm going to go buy that ribeye marbled and I'm going to barbecue it and eat it with my family, man. It's just a matter of me picking up my keys, getting in the car to go and pick it up and cook it up here. The life is about choice and time, people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're going to find every excuse why we're not going to do something, or we're going to find every excuse why we are going to do something, right? Let's find the answers right now to be able to solve those pain points. And I'll tell you, that you're either going to be one of those people that are on the perimeters of the success field behind these big trees, and you're going to take peekaboos out and look at the people who are super successful in their life out in the middle of the field, or you're going to run out in the field and say, I want to be a part of that circle. I want to surround myself with people who are true winners in mindset. And I'm not saying you, as a listener, you're not of that mindset. I'm just saying there are listeners right now that actually are hiding behind the trees. But it's, if you want to connect with me on social media or whatever, send me a PM or a DM. It's Judd Burden. You can do that through Facebook or Instagram, JUDDBURDON. Our team at Asphalt Kingdom too, when you call our toll-free line on asphaltkingdom.com, you're not going to get a salesperson. You're going to get a dream maker that's there with you. And so our sales team has been trained to create remarkable experiences. Whether you want to talk about your cat, whether you want to talk about whatever it is on your side, our team is here to help you to get to that next level in your life. And I think that that's the difference in business, is that we're either going to just be a transactional business, or we're going to actually be a relationship building business that creates remarkable experiences for people. It's go time now.
There seems to be a recurring theme. It's kind of like, just get off your butt and do it. It sounds like there's no magic formula of like, well, there's a perfect time to start a business. There's a perfect time to do anything. It's just take that first step, get things going. I love that. Along those same lines, what would you say is all the businesses that you've talked to, are there specific traits that makes like an ideal entrepreneur, or that makes one person more successful than another? Can anyone do this? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Like somebody who, let's say that we think about traits and behaviors. So traits are kind of what we're programmed with up until, the age of, they say around 8 or 9 years old, right? These are the things that happen to you in the early stages of your life that literally become kind of the way that you're programmed, and the way that your traits are going to now be carried with you for life. And I'm not saying to use that as blame or a excuse as to why certain things may not happen in your life. But what I'm saying is that the things that have happened in that earlier childhood period have major impacts on you and the way that you are programmed, both positively and negatively. And the behavioral modifications that we make relating to our traits is, whether you might drink a bunch of alcohol to modify your traits. You might do some drugs to do that. You might eat in a certain way to modify. You might have too high of a sugar intake to modify the way that you feel. You may get into a social setting and be an introverted individual, and you may try to become a little bit more extroverted, and it's super uncomfortable. And when you have traits and you have your behavior modifications, if you're behaviorally modifying constantly, you will have an enormous amount of stress in your life. And so what we need to understand is that, like, for example, Jordan, you and I are programmed differently. Are there some similarities? Maybe once we get to know each other, if we did a culture index survey, we might start to identify what our strengths and weaknesses are. And so what we'll generally find is that the entrepreneur has high autonomy traits that are to the right of the line, as we say, where they're more trailblazer-like. And you'll see entrepreneurs that are extroverted, full of energy, let's just go. But what you'll find too is entrepreneurs a lot of the time have very low attention on their D trait, which is low attention to detail. We're not detail-oriented people. So you have this visionary, this person who dreams about ideas constantly, that speaks in an inspirational, motivational way. I'm a trailblazer, if you haven't noticed. And so I'm just kind of like, go, 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 go. And so what I need to identify is am I the right person for finance? Probably not, because my detail sucks. And so what I would say to you is this: to get started, anybody can start a business if you have the right plan, but you need to immediately start to identify that adding in the right team members into the areas that you're weak with is really, really important. And so I would say, do your culture indexing, find out the people, your team members, survey your family, survey your friends, survey your friends' friends, people that you're hiring, and find out where people's traits are and what their behaviors are, so that you can understand how to actually communicate with them and if they fill the voids in your life.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, last question here, Judd. If you were starting your business again, what would you do differently, if anything, on day one?
Oh, not a thing, man.
Really? Yeah.
Not a thing. But, well, it's because I've just loved the journey, man. It's been so cool to grow. It's like, if I could go back, I love running long distance in rocks and trail running and all that stuff. Like, I'm the kind of nut that wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning and will go bang out 6 miles every single day, every single morning before the sun's up, I will just say, like, what would I do to go back, or what would I do differently if I went back and I was starting to run over again, to learn how to run again? I don't know. Every step has been a learning process, man. It's like, it's been really cool.
Love that. Love that. Solid advice. Solid advice. Well, thanks again, Judd, for being a part of the show today, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the advice that you've given us. All right. Thanks again.